Good morning and evening, whenever it is for you, and welcome to Judging by the Cover. Today we're looking at something a little unique compared to the kind of content we usually look at on this channel. Not just because that it's Pride Month and I wanted to look at something with an LGBTQ positive message or development and something that now we don't look at a lot of visual novels. I believe last week we looked at something that did kind of fall in the lines of a visual novel kind of thing, but this one is touted as a visual novel trilogy about these three women and their journey in navigating their culture, they navigating their Japanese society and the changes going on in their lives and wanting to just belong and fit in, but wanting to be true to themselves and their identity. We do have the three of them are shown throughout the screenshots, and it is an incredibly simple art style, which honestly, I love the art style. It feels like a storybook that's portraying a kind of innocence and simplicity. Uh, I know we can get into all the stuff about elegant anime art or incredible 3D graphics, but sometimes the simple answer can be incredibly impactful. And right here, just the one character, I believe Haru is this one, just waking up in the morning, there you get the point and you see the scene is set, the characters are and plainly defined who they are, what their vibe is, what their whole motif is. And we do have small scenes like this, watching TV. Haru looks like one of them texting Haru back and forth, talking about whatever plans they're making. And it does seem that the Year of Springs, now I don't know if each story is a separate story of a different trip or a different situation, or if it's one single trip that the three of them are planning that is told from each of their three different perspectives. Honestly, this game is on Steam full price for $5 for this little trilogy. It is not expensive at all. Honestly, with that kind of a price, I would hands down go ahead and get this just to go ahead and take a look at it because it looks like it does provide a positive spin. Now, if anybody else has played this, by all means, leave in the comments if you found this to be a positive portrayal or not. The Steam reviews do seem to be leaning towards the positive, as we can see here. Very positive on recent, overwhelmingly positive on the rest. So people who go for this style of game or this style of visual novel, they do seem to really lean into this being a positive portrayal in characters trying to fit in and find their place in life. We do even see a few reviews that are highlighted right here on the store page. And because it's on the store page, we will go ahead and take this into account. I came to realize that Haru's situation is different from others. Within the law, the system, or the community, there was no place for her to be accepted. This game is for people who have been denied of being themselves. Something that now because Haru, we'll see when we look at one of the games here. Haru is a trans woman, and the whole her story seems to revolve around she and her friends planning a trip to a hot spring. And of course, being the culture and the customs can be very rigid in Japan, a trans woman being at a hot spring at the women's bath, mm, the culture may see that as a problem, um, depending on how the other women in that space receive that. Um, Again, it's a very delicate kind of thing. Now, this is touted as appropriate for all ages, but because it does touch on these themes, it's I wouldn't call it a content advisory or anything of that sort. Just something to bear in mind when recommending this to friends. Be being like what kind of attitude they might have and what kind of content they're looking for. Because, some people are going to be complete assholes about this. But quite frankly, I think it sounds like a very touching story given what we're seeing here. A Year of Springs is a heartfelt story of three young women in Japan facing issues with love, friendship, and gender. The visual novel is cute yet compelling and highly recommended. Now, moving on to the about the game, experience the stories of Haru, Erika, and Manami in A Year of Springs, a visual novel trilogy about a trio of friends navigating their feelings of love, connection, and just wanting to belong. Now, again, I did check the price up there. It is $5 for the trilogy, but you can actually get One Night Hot Spring, this one here, free on Steam. If you're on the fence about this, or wanting to support the developer, or wanting to see about maybe how you feel about the message before you were to go and purchase, they offer one of the three visual novels for free, and we'll be pulling that up on Steam in a minute. So, in One Night Hot Springs, visit the hot springs with Haru, a young and anxious trans woman who just wants to enjoy herself on a trip with Manami, but doesn't want to cause any trouble. So that's One Night Hot Springs. And then in the second visual novel of this trilogy, there's Last Day of Spring. In Last Day of Spring, start off the Reiwa era as Erika. So a new era, the way they have like their different periods, like Meiji, Edo. I'm not an expert on Japanese history. I just know that some of these, from having a little exposure to anime, I've had a passing familiarity, at least with some of this terminology. So, rail me all you want in the comments for being an uncultured, uneducated swine, but the Reiwa era is basically the new era that is starting up here in Erica, a well meaning ex delinquent. So, somebody who was a hothead in their youth, but probably mellowed out going into their adulthood, who runs into more issues than expected when trying to plan a spa day for Haru. Now, I'm not sure if the spa day for Haru that she's planning is something um, that is parallel with the One Night Hot Springs, or if this is a separate story altogether. Where so One Night Hot Springs appears to be Haru and Manami spending time together, and then Last Day of Spring is Haru and Erika. So Manami seems to be out of this story, so it probably is separate events altogether, not just being told from different perspectives. But it is still this trio of friends that are linked together through all of this. And in the third, we have Spring Leaves, No Flowers. uh Spring leaves, no flowers. Okay. It took me a minute to piece together the words. And is it like, wait, spring leaves as in leaves on a branch? But no, it's spring leaving no flowers behind. So spring leaves, no flowers. Help sheltered university student Manami think about what friendship and romance mean to her as she spends a day with Haru, Erika, and her boyfriend. So it seems that Erica. So it seems that Monami is in a straight relationship, but with her two, I'm gonna guess, besties at this point in the life. If these are chronological, these coming after the fact, and her coming to terms with whatever balance of friendship and romance that she has in her life. It does not specify like what the relationship with the boyfriend is, if there's some kind of a tension there where she's not sure about staying with her boyfriend, or maybe it's just a matter of like she and her boyfriend and her best friends having some kind of I don't know. It does not give us much detail, but the you can hear that little melody chiming in the background. It just, I don't know. There is something that the page is leaving enough to get me hooked on wanting to know what the story and what the dynamic of these three characters are, and to see what kind of story they're telling. Now, like I did say earlier, but there it does show the content warning. The trilogy discusses issues that people of different genders and sexualities may face, which is a topic that can be sensitive and personal. But with that, it does say in here that it is age appropriate. They don't get like explicit or anything like that, which is one of the reasons I wanted to go in here, because I know a lot of games that deal with love and romance can also have a lot of explicit material, or even just a couple of scenes, because intimacy, frankly, is a big part of relationships, but sometimes you don't want to have that on screen. You want to just let these characters grow and develop and be vulnerable as people in their situation. Ooh, there's even Steam achievements. But anyway, we are going to look at One Night Hot Springs real quick. Let me just grab that window and pop it up here. So this One Night hot springs. Hello. Okay, that'll do it. One Night Hot Springs. Sorry, the visual got a little weird when I decided to hold the thing up there. Anyway, One Night Hot Springs here is the story specifically of Haru, invited by her old friend Manami to spend a night at the hot spring. All Haru wants to do is enjoy the hot springs like everyone else, but she doesn't want to cause any trouble. As I mentioned before, some cultures around the world do have a very rigid set of customs, and when it comes to Japanese hot spring, unless it's specifically a co-ed hot spring, the men and women's baths can be very strictly segregated along those lines, and it would seem that there isn't much of an allowance for trans individuals to go to the spring that they identify with. Now, we're not getting into the discussion of whether it's appropriate or proper or any of that sort. Uh, People do deserve to be comfortable in their spaces, but at the same time, now Haru is, of course, wanting to make sure that she can enjoy herself and relax, but it's also very ingrained in Japanese culture, as I understand it, that there is like an overbearing sense of politeness to not cause discomfort to others, no matter, like, almost to the point of no matter what kind of discomfort it might cause yourself. And that's not a statement of what is right or proper. That is simply a thing that I've noticed in culture in Japan through, a little bit of peripheral exposure, not only through anime. I know I did paint myself as a little bit of a weeb before, but through interacting with people, they do have a lot of that attitude of like when they apologize, when they uh excuse themselves, it's always about deferring to the other person is a major cultural point. So, One Night Hot Spring is a visual novel. You play as Haru, a young transgender woman, and join her at the hot spring in Japan. It is for all age. Yeah, here it says it's for all ages, but it discusses issues that a transgender woman in Japan might face, which is the topic that can be sensitive and personal. I appreciate that they do highlight this here, making it very clear that it's like, look, this is age appropriate, but it is a sensitive topic for people. It is something that people can be sensitive about. So approach it with that mindset of being open. And if you're a trans individual, maybe this is the kind of story that might kind of speak to you in a way about wanting, not in a way of appeasing society, but in a way of wanting to belong and like coping and balancing that desire to belong as you are and as you identify, but struggling against what society might view you as or might think of you as, be it right or wrong. Like, everybody deserves to feel comfortable in their skin. And always please keep in mind that this takes place in Japan with Japanese characters. They are clear that this is not something that me, as a cisgendered straight white male in the United States, like, it's not this game is not about me. But they do a good job here. It even says playtime is about 30 minutes. The first one is extremely short, and this one is available for free with $3 for the art collection here. Now, it's very simple art. I don't know if I would buy the art collection unless this is something that really speaks to me. If I were to go and get that $5 trilogy, then I would, like, you know what? I would get I might get the something like the art collection and the soundtrack as an additional show of support to the developer if it is something that I appreciate, and that, you know, like I said, if it speaks to you and that's something that really, I go off the cuff on these, and it's really hard to words good on it sometimes. But like, you guys out there, you all know what I'm talking about, right? Oh, hello. There we go. Got that one off. But that's what we're looking at here. The game looks like it was on a Woman's Day sale in February. Simplified Chinese translation revision. Now, Russian and simplified Chinese translations are available. So that's cool. You can also get this in other languages. Um, again, now the music, or at least this melody in the background, it's very simple. It almost sounds like a generic music box. It even sounds familiar, like I've heard it somewhere, like it's been attached to something. But it is a very simple and very, I don't know, simple and like the elegance and simplicity is just kind of what speaks to me here. I have to say that with this, I have to rate on the store page alone. Store page. Now, mind you, this rating is the store page and how it presents itself and how it presents its purpose and its message. I am rating this a rare 10 out of 10 based on the store page and how it looks like it's selling itself as something that is positive, inclusive, something that is showing not only an LGBTQ positive story, or at least is being packaged as one, but as something that is another nation's culture. Something like 2 points of interest that I think can really help to broaden horizons. Again, assuming that portrayals are accurate and with respect to their designated subject matters. Now, from my limited half educated or uneducated standpoint, it does look like they do a pretty solid job from the store page, the screenshots and everything, and how they describe themselves. The reviews, I have not read the reviews, but the fact that we have such positive reception on this, like if they did a bad job with this, I am confident that user reviews would not be overwhelmingly positive. The couple of reviews that we have here and the fact that it is such a low price, it shows that the developer is not trying to gouge us on this, and they even offer the first one for free. So again, if this is something that speaks to you, I would fully suggest checking out the free chapter. And if you want more after that, it's $5 for the trilogy of visual novels without getting any extra DLC. Like, and the DLC is a soundtrack and an art book. Um, the developer does have some other stuff under their belt, but this one in particular seems to be into or in this theming of of the trans identity in Japan, and how people have to navigate that, or how they try to navigate that within some rigid cultural expectations. So with that, like I said, 10 out of 10 based on the store page. If anybody out there agrees or disagrees, please leave a comment down below. If you have played this or have checked it out, it came out in 2021, so it's not exactly new. This is just the first time that I've seen this, and I think it looks like it has an incredible um just simple vibe to it that I think really deserves some kind of a merit based on just the artistry of it, and the artistry and the I can't words good today, but I think you guys out there know what I mean. It again, if this is now, visual novels are not something I usually get in, especially ones that would be hours and hours and hours long. But for these three short visual novels, this is something that I could very easily see myself dropping $5 on. And if that $5 leads me to believe that this developer really approached with a good, like, if they approached it with the grace and civility that I expect when dealing with sensitive subject matter, then they do have other projects that that share the art style, share the simplicity that I may also look at down the line.